everyone. Good evening. It is the Global MEGAFist 12. We are here for episode 3 tonight. We feature the lightweights for their first time here on board the Atsapaddlin. I believe we're currently in Bull Shoals Lake, Missouri. Somehow avoided running aground multiple times. As always, I am Derek Osceola. I'm joined 6 feet safely, socially distanced away, Lucille Cramblecord. Apologies for not getting to you here last week. We had a bit of a, I'm not entirely certain what we're allowed to admit to.
Yeah, it might be best if we keep things on the hush hush until Mr. Nog is able to sort some things out financially, I guess.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it. But yeah, we had to lay low for a few days, which is especially tough when you're a riverboat on a pretty small body of water. But we are making it work. We have our top men working our riverboat. Casino is open, the buffet is open, and the fights are open for business tonight. We've got a lot of great action. We are going to feature the lightweights, 155 pounds, their first fights of the group stage. First off, the rules of our fights tonight: amateur MMA from start to finish tonight, 3 rounds, 150 seconds each, 2.5 minutes long. That's how long the rounds are. It's a 10-point must-scoring system. The round winner getting 10 points, his opponent 9 or less. Of course, no to the groin, no hitting the back of the head, and no collecting $200 when passing go. If any of our fights go to decision, the judges will score it based on aggression, damage control, and quality of their PowerPoint presentation. Lucille, we've got a huge main event tonight. A couple of playoff fighters in quite the battle tonight. Trevor Sereno and Miroslav Florislava. We don't have to worry about the asbestos getting into our lungs this time, as we will be at a safe distance, but I can't say the same for some of the other fighters.
Oh yeah, this is something that's going to be a great fight. Both guys had amazing performances last year, but we've seen some of in the other weight classes, some of what we thought were the top guys fall off a little bit. So, we'll see who's caught up skill-wise to Sereno and Florislava.
No doubt about it. Sereno, of course, looking to make it 2 for 2. He, of course, scored the big upset in the semifinals, knocking out Florislava, who had previously gone 5-0 in the group stage. So, revenge on the mind of the man in asbestos. Of course, still sticking with that group, Zeke Apnea and Cale Howard, 2 fighters that didn't set the world on fire last year. They'll do battle, and this is a big chance for either of them to pick up some huge points.
Yeah, pick up those big points that are crucial for the Global MEGAFist, and just start the new year off right. It's a new year, it's a new you. Just go out there and bludgeon your opponent as best you can, boys.
I think that's as true to words as you could possibly get with this. And of course, to round out that group, we have Ruben Fondant, our despondent Baker, taking on a newcomer to the Global MEGAFist 12. We saw him do his damage in the Hyperfist last year. Walter Birch has a prime candidate for one of his disciplined beatings. The Cake Man, see if he's improved over the year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Maybe Fondant, he's not, baking for children who will ruin his cakes. Maybe that's bolstered his spirits a bit. Birch was tough in that Hyperfist, and as I said last time out, these Hyperfist guys are really impressing. It's really impressive what they've been able to do against this Global MEGAFist competition so far.
No doubt about that. That is one half of the Global MEGAFist 12. Of course, there are 2 groups, and we're going to see our defending champion, the 2019 lightweight champion of the Global MEGAFist 12, JC Switcher, the human living mannequin. He takes on a tough opponent, Charlie Valentine, one I believe he's pretty familiar with, but nonetheless, they I believe Valentine just barely missed out on the playoffs last season, losing a decision to Switcher in the main event of the last group stage fight. Revenge will be on his mind, but Switcher wants to keep that momentum going.
Oh, 100%, Derek. I mean, Valentine, he was so close to making it to the playoffs, and for that to slip away on a decision is gotta sting him pretty hard, and he's got a chance to get revenge against not only the man that kept him out of the playoffs, but won the whole thing. So a win here over Switcher is huge if he can pull it off.
It would be a huge victory, but not an easy one in any sort of way. And of course, we have another man who lit the world on fire in the lightweight division, Rob Lynn, the Goblin, Rob Lynn. Of course, known for being Canada's best pickpocket. He's got a tough fight in Rear Sergeant Val Gibbs, a first-time matchup between the two. They were in opposite groups last time. Rob Lynn, after a surprise loss to JC Switcher in the semifinals, he wants to do even better this year after going 5-0 to lose in the semifinals. He's got a title on his mind.
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's why everyone's here. But a guy like Rob Lynn, he's I don't want to say he's greedy, but for a top pickpocket like him, he's looking for something more than just what can fit in another man's wallet. He wants something bigger.
Oh, no doubt about that. He's already got a bit of a taste of what his abilities are last season. He knows he's got the ability to go far in this tournament. He wants to do it yet again. And of course, rounding out that group, Beginnis Swordhouse, our Ren Fair enthusiast, taking on another newcomer from the Hyperfist winner from the winner's bracket, Deputy Snooter Magnum, the police force's first ever bomb-sniffing man.
Yeah, Snooter Magnum, another very impressive guy on the Hyperfist and Swordhouse. He's definitely got room for improvement from what he did last year. I think this is going to be a great fight. Both guys have a lot to prove, and they want to prove it against each other. So let's take a look how this shakes out for
I am very excited for this
tonight.
one. I am very excited for this one, Lucille. I think we are getting ready to go live with our first fight of the evening. It's going to be featuring, well, there it is. We're starting off with a big one. Rob Lynn and Rear Sergeant Val Gibbs going live right now. As we go into the tail of the tape, Rob Lynn, Val Gibbs. Rob Lynn, very lanky, good reach, but he's been the shorter fighter in a lot of these fights. And of course, we asked them their favorite buffet item, as of course there is a buffet here on the Atsa Paddle. And Rob Lynn loves his gravy, loves his brown gravy. Rear Sergeant Val Gibbs insisted on discipline. I don't know what he was trying to prove there, but I suppose, okay, discipline, sure. Anyway, here we go. Rob Lynn in the gray with the Canadian flag. Rear Sergeant Val Gibbs in his Army greens or some sort of military force greens.
His soldier greens, very common soldier attire. Rear Sergeant Val Gibbs, it makes sense to be, that he'd want to focus on discipline, especially, a temptation like an all-you-can-eat buffet, and if he's got to make weight, every couple of weeks at 155, he can't be gorging on gravies and pot roasts and things like that. He's got to have small, sensible salads and veggies. And
I guess so, but I mean, like, I understand you're trying to make weight just in general in MMA. I mean, the focus on discipline, was he some sort of drill sergeant? I actually don't really know. I don't have much for records, and I guess that's just because some of our notes, there was a brief bit of wind and some notes I'm kind of throwing together what I can here, but I don't seem to have anything that reminds me what his military credentials are.
There we go.
Yeah, I mean, he did mention to me he was glad that he got to fight Lynn in this first fight because it meant he didn't have, at least for a few minutes, he didn't have to worry about Rob Lynn trying to sneak in and steal any of his soldier trophies. I guess he keeps those
soldier,
in his
I'm assuming he means his medals.
He said trophies, so I didn't want to correct a troop. So
yeah, of course, yeah.
All respect.
Proud troop, absolutely. I understand that. He's working from an open guard of Rob Lynn. He's keeping it on the ground, which is a smart idea.
Yeah, you've got to avoid Lynn's big knockout power. I mean, that highlight reel showed just how dangerous the Goblin is on the feet. I mean, just knocking people out left and right.
Yeah, I think we were commenting as the intro is playing that it's almost hard to pick one specific knockout from Rob Lynn or one big heavy strike. He went 5-0 in the group stages last season and picked up a lot of points as well for those early finishes. Big knee, a knee like that could usually just end a fight.
Absolutely, but again, the discipline of Rear Sergeant Val Gibbs to just keep fighting,
Yeah, again, just that military, just general military attitude, of course, and he is he's opting not to sit for the moment, still standing at attention, I suppose, or maybe he's at ease. Okay, he's sitting now. It's probably smart, the corner has to convince him to do that. But
yeah.
Back and forth round. I think if I'm Val Gibbs, I'm not too upset about how that round went. I don't know if I necessarily won the round, but he avoided some of the large strikes from Rob Lynn. He's got a strategy. He's taking him late into the fight, maybe. That knee was probably the worst strike of the fight. That might have been enough to win it for Lynn, but I'm not too unhappy if I'm Gibbs or Gibbs' corner.
Oh, absolutely not. Lynn has shown that he's susceptible to the takedown, to getting controlled on top, and that's a route that Rear Sergeant Val Gibbs can ride to a victory. If he maintains discipline, if he doesn't try and prove a point and get an early knockout or anything like that, if he can just work his game. But
very nice. Yeah, I think he tried to pull guard and just it didn't materialize, but he's gotten himself out of it.
Control his hands.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, he's talking to Gibbs. He says that he's
Beautiful.
gonna be excited to use his ground game on Rob Lynn to try to neutralize the heavy strikes. Of course, he didn't say ground game. He actually just said combat grapples, which I'm not entirely certain is the technical term. Maybe it was just kind of like a colloquialism, like he kind of referred to it as combat grapples. Maybe it was kind of like a joking thing with his soldier buddies, I imagine. But he was pretty insistent that it was called combat grapples.
Well, I guess that makes sense. If he's used to having to literally fight for life and death in a wartime battle situation, having a referee stand nearby and break up a submission hold once it gets tapped out or anything, that's nothing to a guy like Rear Sergeant Val Gibbs. He's
Are you saying that like when he was serving in the military, for this, as a proud American, there were referees nearby, that he brought referees with him?
No, I'm saying for a guy
okay,
like him
yeah.
who fought life and death, it's
Yes.
kind of laughable to have a referee, you know.
Oh, and there's a big takedown as well. Nice,
Oh, absolutely.
almost like a judo throw. It wasn't a full-on judo throw, but he definitely got that ankle pick with his own heel in there, and he's working the mount. So this seems to be, you know, there's some really good ground action from Gibbs, but Lynn is just so slippery. He just gets out of it, and just again that deft sleight of hand.
Perfect.
Yeah, his ability to reverse position and find his way, you know, on top is really impressive, but Gibbs is not, you know, sitting back and allowing it to just go on. Oh, but Lynn is
guillotine.
looking for, searching for that choke.
Just like slides right into it. He just kind of like brought him into a false sense of security. Again, that whole misdirection, you know, gets him looking one way. And again, it's weird. Some of the same skills of pickpocketry work when you get into like jujitsu. I would have to say. I mean, again, he's more of a striker, but in the fight game, it's all about playing mind games. It's all about getting your opponent to look for one thing, leave an opening. You know, that's one of the strategies a lot of fighters will employ. It kind of works in the same sort of philosophy.
Oh, absolutely. Feints, you know, and anything to, you know, get your opponent thinking you're going to do X, and then you just surprise him out of the blue with Y is going to be much more effective than just trying to brute force your way through a position or a hold.
No doubt about that. That is, it's an outstanding. It's very nice to see that it's very nice to see that these fighters who have
All you need to do is
regular jobs, or I guess I don't know if being a pickpocket is necessarily a job per se, but it kind of is.
Let's fight.
Can use those skills in the middle of this cage where they are forced to fight because, well, they can't leave. And we are into our third round, which again for Rob Lynn is not too common of a not that common of a predicament.
Yeah, it's something he's, you know, it's going to be interesting to see if he can maintain the kind of knockout power he had in the 2019 campaign, you know, deep into a third round fight.
Yeah, he's only been to the third round once, and that was in his last win against Cale Howard. He did in fact get the knockout with about 18 seconds to go, if my math is looking correctly on this note page. But yeah, we got 100 seconds to go left in this fight. Oh, nice little switch kick in the midair. I've never seen something like that from Lynn before.
Yeah, he's looks like he's digging deep into his bag of tricks to find anything to use against the rear sergeant here.
Well, again, it just shows what Gibbs has been doing. And he's going for one of those. And this is, I've heard him talk about this. He calls this the American choke, as he says that's a technical name. I believe it's actually a triangle, an arm triangle, but American choke is how he insisted that's how he was taught it as in military submission school, as he put it.
Yeah. Oh, guillotine from yeah. Well,
Wow, this
I
is
mean,
good.
the submission holds, you know, depending on what school you basically learn them from. I mean, whether it's jiu-jitsu or catch wrestling or judo or any, you know, they do tend to get different names, you know.
Of course, you know,
I've heard.
I mean, I don't want to in any sort of way, Lucille, to even imply that anything that Rear Sergeant Val Gibbs is saying about his military skills training or experience is in any way false. I wouldn't ever say something like that. I think one of the other important things about that is when you give something kind of a nickname, and this is from my experience in the stand-up striking battle, when you give something a nickname, the other corner doesn't know what it is when you're calling for it. It's like using code words.
Oh,
We got a last second arm lock, and I think he's
he got him with that Kimura from guard. What a gutsy performance from Rob Lynn.
Well, it wasn't the American choke. It was the Canadian, almost a dislocator. He was trying to pick Gibbs' own pockets with his own hand on that one, and we see he didn't even have too much of a full guard on that. I guess that probably helps out, but he cranked on it, and Gibbs just had no answer for that.
Yeah, he was, it was late into the fight, both guys had been grappling a lot, just trying to move another man, is going to tire yourself out. And, I think Gibbs goes full force with as much as he can every single time. And he just didn't have enough to escape that hold.
No doubt about that. Well, Rob Lynn, 4 big points in this one. He moves into, well, he goes to 1-0, so again, that's going to be his first big win, and those are important points to pick up. We'll explain the point system in just a few moments after our next fight. For those who might be new to Global Megafist 12, we've got a second fight coming up in just a few. Ruben Fondant, our despondent baker, taking on newcomer to Global Megafist 12, the disciplinarian, Walter Birch. But it's definitely going to be, it's going to be meat and entrees versus dessert in this one. No surprise, Ruben Fondant going for that chocolate fountain, despite seeing what every child has done to that chocolate fountain since his arrival in the buffet. It's a bold move. Are you ready?
It is a bold move.
Let's go, guys. Fight.
It's not the wisest, but sometimes you just got to live dangerously.
Watch him trying to bait you. Working your angles.
Fondant definitely has lived dangerously. He's a baker. He is very much an ace when it comes to making cakes. He
stick to the game plan.
Crafts some of the most beautiful, decorative cakes and dessert items, delivers them to parties, and then has to watch in abject horror as his creations, his beautiful works of art, are torn asunder by children who can't appreciate art. They just want to cut into the giant Rice Krispie square that's made of look like a SpongeBob, which again, it's a square. It's not too hard, but still, it's a lot of talent. He's very talented, but again, he just forces himself to watch it, and he just force-fed a knee right to the maw of Birch.
Yeah, I was gonna say, a guy like Birch might be able to help Fondant, in the outside world, as a disciplinarian of children, to kind of maybe temper their enthusiasm for destroying the cakes.
Yeah, we're seeing some of the methods right there. A big elbow. Oh, he drops
big
it.
Hook.
Oh, he's just hammering away at Ruben Fondant.
Just smashing him.
And goes for, there's an arm triangle.
It's an arm triangle, a side choke if you're a catch wrestler, an America choke if you're a troop. It's got tons of names. It's all the same process.
And it's got a victory if your name is Walter Birch.
Wow. I hate to repeat myself so much, but these Hyperfist guys are for real. They are putting their name in the record books just, coming out and taking out these established global Megafist guys.
No doubt about it. Well, Ruben Fondant, well, his early start took a bit of a misstep, and Walter Birch gets the tap out. But Birch, for that first minute and a half, I gotta say, he was impressive against these established fighters. Proves that the Hyperfist, maybe the Hyperfist has worked out. He kind of gave it credit for. It's not necessarily a second-rate division. Guys who make their way up for it, proving their point right here.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Fondant's record isn't the greatest, but he has survived relegation, so you got to give that to him.
And he did. He got that all-important win over Eddie Andromeda that saved his spot in the Global Megafist 12. He may not necessarily have that sort of luck if he finds himself in 5th place again this year. But of course, much to worry about before that. He's got 4 fights before that. Coming up next, another Hyperfist winner making his debut in the GMF 12, Deputy Snooter Magnum, taking on Beginnis Swordhouse, an established heavy-handed fighter. That's coming up in just a few moments. But first, before that, we understand there may be some new folks to Global Megafist 12. If you're unfamiliar with Global Megafist 12 and how this works and why we're talking about points and standings and semifinals and finals, here is an explanation of how this tournament works.
The Global Megafist 12 is a grueling competition like nothing ever seen before in mixed martial arts. First, the 12 fighters are drawn at random into 2 groups of 6 fighters each. Each fighter will face off against the other 5 in their group. A win is worth 3 points, while a draw is worth 1. In addition, bonus points are awarded for how fast a fight is won. Winning in the 3rd round is worth 4 total points, a 2nd round win is worth 5, and finishing a fight in the 1st round gets you 6 points in all. After all 5 rounds of competition, the 2 fighters who finish in last place are relegated from Global Megafist 12 and must earn their way back in next season. They will be replaced by 2 fighters from the Hyperfist qualifying tournament. The 2 5th-place fighters will be matched up against 2 more fighters from the Hyperfist qualifiers, with the winners earning their spot in next season's Global Megafist 12. The top 2 fighters from each group advance to the semifinals, where the 1st-place fighter from each group will take on the 2nd-place fighter from the other. The winners of these fights will do battle for the championship. It all comes down to one thing: win, and win fast. And the title of Global Megafist 12 champion awaits.
to the tail of the tape, Beginner's Swordhouse. Going for turkey legs. I don't think I've ever seen one at the at a buffet, but we insist. Deputy Senior Magnum. Guess he eats the bones. I don't know, but he said the bones.
I'm hoping he means like rib bones, but
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, you can get spare ribs on the buffet. Absolutely.
Ready?
Wings, I suppose. Sure.
yeah, that's a weird, weird choice. The bones is just a weird. It's a weird way to phrase whatever he is consuming from the buffet, but
Very strange. Well, anyway, again, the K9 unit's first ever human employee, bomb-sniffing human, Deputy Snooter Magnum, in the blue. And he is going to town right away with some ground and pound. That is not dog pound, that's ground and pound. And Beginner's Swordhouse and his chainmail.
There it is.
Might be weighing him down. He's on his back in the mounted position already.
yeah,
Moving out of it.
he's trying to work back into a half guard, but Snooter is, he is adamant about achieving that full mount. He just needs to posture up and lay in some of those big heavy punches and elbows. If he can manage that. There he goes.
No doubt about that. We have seen Beginner's Swordhouse had a very strong start to the tournament last season. He kind of fluttered out towards the end. He had big TKO and knockout victories.
Work that wrist control.
When he started to falter, he would be when he would get caught early. So he had an early knockout in the first round to Rob Lynn. He was knocked out by Trevor Sereno, which ultimately cost him his spot in the semifinals. That was an early third round knockout
That's it.
to Trevor Sereno. So he's trying to get back into the winning ways.
Perfect.
Yeah, he hasn't had much offense in this fight so far. As Snooter Magnum is just all over him.
No doubt about it. Perhaps I think he might be a little distracted by the fact that there is worries that a Renaissance Fair may not take place this year due to, of course, all the social distancing and quarantining. But Magnum going for an armbar. I'm kind of surprised by this. Snooter Magnum. Well, you can't see kind of an all-around fighting style from him.
Hands up. Hands up.
We've seen him win by knockout. We've seen him win by submission. He's done it late every time. He's going for a bit of an earlier finish this time. He's going for another Kimura.
Yeah, I guess he feels that the round ends, but I guess he feels that Beginner's Swordhouse just isn't as up to snuff on his grappling defense as is to be expected for Snooter Magnum's liking.
That liver kick's working. Everything you're doing is working. He's loading up.
No doubt about that. Well, the first round
Back, you fight that 2-on-1. If he gets that body lock, you gotta fight it off. You gotta
goes to the towels, and you see the replay. It was Magnum just mauling Swordhouse, just going after him, keeping it on the ground, just sticking close to him. That just police force training.
Yeah, I guess you could say it's a bit like a dog with a bone, just, staying on top and not giving an inch. But, yeah. Beginner's Swordhouse really needs to do something in this second round to avoid a repeat performance of Snooter just mauling him on top.
No doubt about that. Well, we go back to this fight, round number 2. The Renaissance Fair versus the K9 unit.
Yeah, a bit of a stalemate here in this clinch as both men looking to dig deep and get those underhooks and get a lot of control. It looked like Snooter was trying for a takedown, but Beginner's Swordhouse just used his strength to block it.
Nice. Beautiful.
There, Magnum's got the fight on the ground where he wants it.
Use your right elbow, get up.
He does, and again, it's just constant.
Keep the half guard. Do not let him turn into you.
Just pressure from Magnum as Swordhouse gets a little bit of the wants a little bit of some offense here.
Yeah, he's finally on top. He's hasn't really landed much. He's trying to get. Oh, good sweep from Deputy Snooter Magnum. But the Guinness Swordhouse is sprawling out. But
oh, taking him for a ride. That is not a light man wearing a light outfit to be pushing and slamming to the ground like that, and he is just hammering away.
That's it. It's over.
And finally, it's all over.
oh, I think that needed a body really did some damage because the Guinness Swordhouse is not doing too well on the ground there.
Yeah, that was looking really rough.
I think Snooter Magnum found a deposit of those turkey legs in Swordhouse's gut.
That he did, and oh, I think, yeah, there's going to be, might be seeing some of those turkey legs again. I've seen, hopefully no one's really going to the buffet right away. That's just kind of unfortunate if that would be the case there.
Yeah, but a big win for Snooter Magnum, another Hyperfist guy with a solid first performance in the Global MEGAFist 12 proper.
No doubt about that, and again, a great debut against a very difficult opponent. And those are the fights that you're going to have to win if you're a brand new fighter here. Those ones, though, if you get a win over a guy who was about middle of the table, one you can really be proud of and really kind of build some momentum on. Coming up next, two guys looking to make a fresher start to 2020. One of them's going to do it. It's Zeke Apnea and Cale Howard coming up right now. Here we go, the tale of the tape for these two. Either of them choosing to answer the favorite buffet item seriously, although Zeke Apnea eating a nap. He's probably sleeping better on this boat than I guess he would at his home. He lives above, as he puts it, an underground fight club, or so it sounds like it. So much that but he also was given a sponsorship by an energy drink. So he has just been staying awake for unhealthy amounts of time, whereas the vegan activist Cale Howard wearing compost, that is a plant-based, I suppose, fight gear. But we can discuss the healthy merits of that as well. So what I can say is the health levels of both fighters questionable at best.
Yeah, unfortunately for Zeke, I did manage to speak with him earlier in the week. He did mention that he thought he'd be able to sleep better here on the Axapaddlin, but he was unfortunately given a room basically right next to the casino, and that thing is just running 24/7, and that is just
playing loud music as well, just to get the to drown out the sorrows of gambling losses, that I understand.
Yeah, live music, just lights flashing and sounds beeping and machines and coins. He described it as a hell he had never thought possible, which is saying something, you know, being that he did live for so long above a underground fight club.
Yeah, again, you know, it's, you would think that he can get a room change, but again, with all the proper quarantining and social distancing, that's not in the cards, unfortunately. But he's again, it's kind of that sleepy, drunken kung fu sort of style. He just kind of staggers about the place, and it's resulted in minor bits of success. He got the wins he needed. He was not ever really in relegation danger last season, but again, really couldn't break out and get those needed wins that he could have done a little bit more with.
Oh, absolutely. He, you know, a 2-3 career record is decent enough to survive, but you know, I'm sure he would like to actually compete in a more legitimate sense of the word in this season.
Beautiful. There we go.
He's doing pretty well. I mean, both men are trading, you know, mostly strikes here. Pretty back and forth so far, I would have to say. But
yeah, Cale Howard is an interesting one. I'm not entirely certain what to make of him, just in general, first of all. But his win-loss record, again, he's a vegan activist, so sometimes he just has specific, as we get to the end of round one. So maybe it's different motivation in his fights. He did have a loss to begin his Swordhouse to start things off. Came back to submit Vern Wintergreen, of course, who was relegated last season. Got a win over Trevor Serrano, an unexpected win with seconds left on the clock.
You gonna go win this round?
Of course, Zeke Apnea did get his first win, a knockout victory over Cale Howard back late last year in November. So perhaps I don't know if either of them can really remember much of that, but that might be something they can draw upon.
yeah, you know, there's a lot of room for improvement for both men. You know, Howard spending a lot of, you know, last year he spent a lot of time, you know, protesting and doing things of that nature. He's still doing that on the Atzapadlin, much smaller. I mean, he never had much of an audience out in the wider world, but it's a much smaller audience and a much less engaged audience here on the Atzapadlin.
That's it. Damage for now.
No doubt about that. We're seeing a bit more aggressive Cale Howard. Perhaps, again, he's being forced to take his protest to the internet, I guess, as fighters are kept in their rooms quite a bit. But Apnea is really hammering away with those right hooks, and Howard just had no answer but to eat them. And again, since he is vegan, that is not vegan friendly.
Yeah, big heavy punches, and Howard tried to cover up as best he could, but just, you know, Apnea was sneaking him through time and time again. Big hooks from Howard, but easily ducked under. I'm liking this catch the kick and sweep the leg bit of business that Howard has been employing. If he can do anything that as he gets mount is going to be the question.
Explode! Work that wrist control.
Big reversal from Apnea, getting into a more dominant position.
Yeah, he's really pushing it well for kind of a well-rounded fighter. Again, you know, the desire to go to the ground is a dangerous one for Apnea, as he might just be too tempted to take a nap during the fight. The man is very tired. He does obviously have the control for it. I'm talking like a narcolepsy sort of thing, but you know, just sometimes being in that position, it's kind of like if you need to go to sleep, you just kind of start laying down, and then against the general idea kind of gets you there. Like right now, that could be a quick snooze for those 3 important seconds. Regain strength, get a clarity of mind. It's kind of like the most powerful of power naps.
Oh, absolutely. Just, you know, to be able to beckon to your opponent, you know, come to the ground, no fighting, just rest. It's a time-honored tradition in martial arts, and you know, hopefully these global MEGAFist fighters will have the honor to oblige Zeke Apnea when he does need a brief bit of a snooze.
That was one of the theories people had, was he was getting knocked out and TKO'd in his first 3 fights. Again, a knockout. Looking at the records, a TKO and another TKO. It might have been that final knockout when Rob Lynn knocked him out in the 3rd fight that kind of dodged something, gave him some really good sleep, and he went on and won his next 2 fights.
Don't vary from the game plan. Are you paying attention to me?
Yeah,
that's the trick. He just needed to get knocked out and actually put to sleep.
You gotta take it to him.
Yeah, it's interesting what it takes for certain fighters to turn that corner and really make a push for, you know, the higher levels of competition. Sometimes it is taking a couple knockouts to change up your style, or just to get you those 40 winks that you desperately have been eating for the last decade and a half.
40 winks would just be luxury for Apnea at this point as we go to round 3. Oh, nice little push kick. And lands one of those just reaching left hooks. And oh, Cale Howard did not see that coming. And he's covering up. And Apnea has done it again.
Amazing. That was incredible, and Howard is up and protesting that stoppage, but he was getting blasted to the face consistently on the mat there.
To be fair, we're not sure if he was protesting the stoppage or just protesting in general. You know, it's hard to say.
True. I'll be on the lookout for any blogs he puts out later this week to clarify.
No doubt about that. We'll be sure to report that back to you. Of course, he has a couple of weeks now before his next fight. Not only recover, but to get in some of his causes straight and get them out of there. And of course, our winner, Zeke Apnea, with 4 big points to get things going.
Yeah, good. And then, I mean, it was 3rd round, but a very early 3rd round stoppage for Zeke Apnea, and is that now 3 in a row for him, dating back to last year?
That is 3 fights and 3 wins in a row for him. Of course, 2 of them against Apnea, against Howard himself. But nonetheless, that is a very good point you raise. He's on a bit of a winning streak, and he's going to find himself in the top half of the standings after tonight with one of those wins. Of course, coming up in just a moment, JC Switchard, Charlie Valentine, a big battle that has, I don't want to say a bad blood, but definitely has some, revenge is going to be on the mind of Charlie Valentine as JC Switchard going to a decision victory over Valentine was what ultimately kept Charlie Valentine out of the playoffs and what set JC Switchard on his championship run. That fight is coming up in just a moment. And of course, that we're going to go to that one right now. Beg your pardon. We are actually going to go to that one in just a second. Sorry, we had more graphics to bring up for you. Coming up, our next episode of Global MEGAFist 12. It's our 2nd set of fights. It's episode 4. That's going to be in 1 week's time here on Monday nights. It's our new time slot, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, of course, here on the rivers in Missouri. May 11th, our next one. The heavyweights are back in action. Gabe Donahue, Wanderer Mo Volt, Zoltan versus Milgram. Lonnie Fescue has the newcomer Jeff Perkins. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing. As well as Oliver Lehman. Our Hyperfist fighters are getting trial by fire. Marty Sweats taking on Lehman as well.
Yeah, this is a outstanding looking matchup, or set of matchups across the board. I mean, yeah, Sweats and Lehman is I can't imagine it being anything less than a banger. You know, Tonic and Adder, that's going to be a great one. You know, Fescue and Perkins, I think that might be the I am going to be circling my calendar and just counting down the days until May 11th for that fight, because that is going to be outstanding.
There are great fights across that card, and especially with some of the surprising results we saw in our first set. Some of these fighters are going to be have their backs against the wall. We're going to see maybe some desperation, maybe some extra effort to finish fights in those ones. But nonetheless, we've got that coming up in just a week's time. That is coming up That is, but coming up right now is our next fight. Final 2 fights of the lightweight tonight. We're going to them right now. That 3. The tape for this, our co-main event of the evening. Right advantage, 2 inches in height and reach go to Jason Switcher. Going for water at the buffet. Kelly Valentine going for that aphrodisiac. Oysters, always. Again, a bold, risky strategy. I'm not sure I'm going to be eating oysters. I'm not going to be partaking of the raw bar at any sort of buffet.
You ready? You ready?
Yeah, especially in Missouri. I mean, we're on a
Let's
lake,
fight.
but I don't know about lake oysters, if that's a thing.
Can't say I've ever had one. Not sure I'm ever going to say I will.
Double the jab.
Yeah, it's best to leave that to the more adventurous types like Mr. Valentine here, and he can report back on.
But I guess,
that
Lucille,
turns
that's why we're on this side of the
Ready to move.
of the fight
move
bill
right
behind
now,
the
breathe and move.
protective glass in our individual booths.
Beautiful.
Social distancing, socially distancing. And of course, we thank you all. We hope you're all staying safe, watching this from the comfort of your own home, and enjoying the Global MEGAFist 12. Let us put ourselves in unnecessary danger. Let these fighters do it as well. Because of course they're not getting paid, but we're seeing Valentine going for a submission already. Arm triangle, but I think a little too early in this fight, going for the first minute of this. And, Valentine...
Yeah, you've got to have an extraordinary squeeze and pretty good technique to get an opponent out this early into a fight, and I don't think Valentine can lay claim to either of those. So it's maybe just sort of a feeling out submission, just to see kind of where Switcher is,
Yeah, I
mentally,
think, and
physically.
again, looking at my statistics, the fights that he had last year, Valentine tended to wait for that right moment. He was never one to finish fast, and that might have ultimately spelled trouble for him. He might be looking to do that a little bit more this season. All of his wins came in the second and third round.
Double up, boom. There it is.
Well, if points are the issue, getting that first round finish over a second or third is key. But he eats a big knee right there from JC Switcher.
That he does. And Switcher, of course,
Let's go, short go.
tended to go long as well. He kind of varied. He had some wins by knockout. He's been able to throw some good strikes, but he's also
Let's cut him. We gotta cut him.
kind of rolled the dice and gone to a decision, gone late.
Nice.
One of his losses actually was to Rear Sergeant Val Gibbs by decision. I know we talked about that being a little bit controversial.
Control his hands.
Nonetheless, it did happen. His other loss was a decision to Miroslav Florislav. Of course, we'll see him in our main event. We're getting to the end of the first round, and it's pretty back and forth, I must say.
Beautiful.
Yeah, this was a very close first round.
Time.
I mean, Valentine had a submission early, but I think JC Switcher did a little more damage. Some of those knees, some of that ground and pound looked to land pretty solidly on Valentine.
Good. Okay.
Might give the
His legs
slight,
are tied
very
from time to
sliver
left.
of an edge
Push the pace.
to JC Switcher
On the
in this
ground, you
first
can
one.
catch him all day long in that
It'll be very interesting to see how this goes. Again, we have to factor in the fact that we might see a decision, just because that seems to be the MO, the modus operandi of these two fighters, to go long. And you know, when they fight in that sort of style, you tend to neutralize your opponent, or you can neutralize your own offense, and it kind of just counterbalances, and ultimately you have to leave it in the hands of the judges.
Yeah, it's a tough balance, you know, to do enough to win, but not, you know, really expose yourself to a counterattack. It's a fine line that these guys are learning how to traverse
You ready?
as they
Ready?
mature in their fight careers.
Let's fight!
We are seeing that. We are into our second round, and they're throw some short-range strikes, and Valentine goes for the clinch up against the cage. We really haven't seen him work as a clinch. It's usually a transition to get the opponent down to the ground, but he likes to just use that. He's got a bit of a wider frame. You know, he uses his weight pretty well, and oh, he tries to go. That's one of the things we usually see, and Switcher saw it coming.
Oh, big shots from Switcher. Those are some heavy punches to the head from that side back mount position, sort of a. Oh, but Valentine recovering and looking for a Kimura.
Again, tries to lull him into that false insecurity. Again, Charlie Valentine, the Oklahoma Cupid, if you will, a certified matchmaker, and he is just trying to become a match breaker, breaking a limb or dislocating a joint in some sort of fashion. He is trying to wrench at that arm. We saw Rob Lynn get a win with that sort of Kimura before.
Yeah, it's got to give Valentine a lot of credit for the determination he's showing and going for these submissions. Switcher's a tough out though. It's going to be hard to finish him.
First the hands. There you go.
True, we have a minute left to go in this, our second round, and Valentine just kind of leaning in, leaving himself wide open to absorb some of those strikes. That's not going to be a good strategy in the long run, but I have to say, this is one of the tougher opponents in the group for Valentine. So he's getting that one out of the way early. I will say, even if it doesn't result in anything beneficial for him.
There we go.
Yeah,
He's giving it pretty well to Switcher.
Yeah, he's landing some big shots with Switcher pressed right up against that fence, you know, making it hard to reposition. Not a lot of time here in the second round, but he can definitely make an impression on the judges if he kind of goes all out in these last 10 or so seconds.
That he is, and he had the mount, but I think he just couldn't maintain it. And it looks like we are probably going to see a third round, I think, as Switcher gets up, throws that knee, but it's blocked right at the end of the second round. And we see a third round. You can see the two fighters just kind of eyeing each other up at the end of this one. They kind of wondering what is it going to take to defeat this opponent. It's mind games.
Yeah, I mean, with the way that the groups were kind of jumbled up after last year, it's interesting that we've got these guys who've already faced each other.
Yeah, it's bound to happen sometime, some of the time, but again, the way that the fights kind of just shake out, the order is completely random, as are the groups drawn randomly. So, the fact that Charlie Valentine is going right back in to face the last fighter he faced last year, very interesting proposition, and maybe he's a little bit more motivated as we head into the third and final round.
Gentlemen, you ready? You ready?
Yes, this fight is a complete coin flip. I could not really call who's won either round, let alone the fight as a whole. But let's see if this third round will open things up and for one fighter or the other, make it a little easier for the judges if they can't find a finish on their own.
Hands up.
Oh, big
Big shot, yeah, and he is just hammering away And again, going right to the clinch. That is the thing. Valentine has, you know, just like how love always finds a way, Valentine seems to find a way to just power through getting rocked like that. And he is looking for something back over to that fence. Maybe looking for that sweep again. He saw how it backfired for him last time. He's going for some strikes. The clinch,
Yeah,
some elbows. Nice elbowing.
Absolutely, slicing open, Switcher's face, which thankfully he's, at least I don't believe he's doing any modeling on the Acepadlin, but, those
Not to my
elbows
knowledge.
are gonna really hamper that if he's trying to. But, it is impressive how, Valentine, a lot of guys, even on the pro ranks, they'll get rocked, and they don't think to clinch, to tie up, they'll just wave on their opponent and try and throw bigger and better hooks back, and it doesn't always work. But Valentine, he recognized he was in danger, and it's time to grab, time to slow things down. But Switcher's on top, and he's
He does fight very smart. I will give him that. He fights very smart, and that is just enough.
There it is.
Especially when you have a bunch of amateurs who may not necessarily learn so much from their mistakes. That might just be the key sometimes. And he's taking the back of Switcher. This is a huge moment. And Switcher slides out the back door.
Wow, that was an impressive transition sequence from Valentine, but yeah, Switcher just escaped out the back, like you said.
Final 20 seconds of this. We've seen a great fight tonight, just outstanding from both these two. I think both of them are going to be serious competition for anyone in a group that also has someone like Rob Lynn, has Rear Sergeant Val Gibbs, and we're seeing Valentine take it again, and we go to a decision. That is going to be right as Valentine had the advantage in the mount from the very end. Lucille, I don't know how we're going to pick this one.
Yeah, that was a great finish for for Valentine to end the fight like that, but is it going to be enough? I honestly don't know. I mean, we've seen 6 rounds from these guys, and it's razor thin.
I'm very glad we got to see this again 2 years running, because it's a fantastic fight. Your guess is as good as mine. I certainly don't know who I could say it goes to, so I have to say either decision. I don't envy the judges. I'm not going to say either one is a bad decision, but let's see who they go to. We'll find out. They do have a decision pending. And they've given it to Switcher.
Wow.
You got to imagine just the most razor thin of margins. But 3 points for the win goes to JC Switcher, the living human mannequin. Goes 2-0 against Valentine.
Yeah, and Charlie Valentine has got to be devastated to drop another decision to, the champ.
Just it's the one that got away, I guess, for the matchmaker. Well, this is our main event. Another rematch from the semifinals this time. Trevor Sereno, finalist, taking on Miroslav. mayonnaise and that weird red syrup at the buffet. He seems to love it, though. I don't get it. I've never tried it. It always kind of scares me. But Miroslav Florislav, of course, always reminding us there are two types of jello.
Yeah, I don't know about that syrup. I've always been too afraid to try it as well. I mean, I'm sure it's less scary than an oyster on
maybe someday I'll try it. Maybe someday I'll be brave enough when I know I don't have anything to do for the rest of the day. Should I fall victim to the bananas and mystery syrup? But I gotta ask Lucille,
Make them reach it and make them pay.
what would be the best two colors of Jello to see on a buffet? For me, I have to go orange and red. But you know, I'm never gonna really turn down any sort of types of Jello when there are two of them.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say a nice blue because that's might be a nice blue raspberry. That's a good Jello. I don't mind a yellow or maybe a green if I know it's a lemon or a lime.
That's a very good point. You know, you get a nice little part.
Be refreshing.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Especially if it's paired with something that's a little on the sweeter side. That's a good point.
Maybe a lime Jello goes really well with a banana and syrup.
Now we're getting a little. We're still early on this riverboat. I don't think I'm ready to make that sort of leap into the buffet experimentation. But perhaps towards the end of the year, if we're still on this, perhaps we'll look eventually into that one. But we are already getting some heavy hands thrown. Miroslav Florislava, the very the man who is just so who just lives and breathes fire safety, must be thrilled that we are on the water because, but of course he had to remind us that Cleveland, Ohio did have a body of water catch fire. So you know, he's just been reminding us about fire safety constantly, and with bandaged feet, just scarred from the hot coals, and my knee from Sereno barely evaded.
Yeah, I've got to apologize to Florislava. You know, last year I was probably a little too harsh on him. His asbestos gear did force a lot of us to wear masks, calling his fights. Now that's less of an issue. We are isolated. We have our own air supply in these, or at least I think we do in these sealed off boxes.
I hope so.
Time, guys.
He was a tremendous fighter, and I was harsh on him for a choice of attire, which
I don't think we were harsh. We were breathing in particles that were probably going to damage our lungs. So I think we were the proper level of harsh. That we been reminded of it. He's still doing it. It's just not affecting us directly. Yeah, we can care a little less.
Yeah, it's not going to shred our lungs. Probably, we don't think so. It's out of sight, out of mind, essentially.
In this current climate, I will take probably we don't think. So that's fine by me. First round, couple heavy strikes, nothing really breaking through, but you get the feeling that both these fighters are looking for that big strike to end this one. You cannot forget that Miroslav Florislava went 5-0 in the groups last year. He was seemingly unstoppable. And then in the semifinals, Trevor Sereno pulled off a shocking knockout in the second round. This is when he did it. Second round knockout for Sereno. In Florislava's last fight. Since then, so he's getting the Valentine treatment. He's getting the revenge fight right out the gate.
Yeah, and he was looking to end it early in the second round. At the sound of the bell, just throwing hooks and head kicks to Sereno. Just couldn't quite put him away yet.
We are seeing a clinch fight, but Sereno comes back. Nice throw right out of the clinch. I mean, again, he was the one in the clinch, so he escapes and throws something. But that's a good strategy to see. You know, usually when you have someone in the clinch, when you break free from the clinch, that's usually a good chance to catch someone with their hands down. They think they're out of. They kind of forget that they're still in a closer range. That even if you take a step back, you're not in striking range. You're in clinch range. That you're still in range when you take a step back, as opposed to, when you're throwing hands.
Yeah, those hooks kicks, they can still land with a lot of force from that short distance. It's not safety at all.
Nice head kick again from Florislava.
Wow.
And again, those calloused, burnt feet of his, just feeling no pain. Sereno feeling quite a bit.
Both guys looking like they're they're obviously putting a lot into each of these strikes. They're taking a little bit of time to recover and catch their wind.
Oh, that's the first big strike of the fight. Sereno is down. Couldn't Florislava be getting his revenge right off the death? 42 seconds to go in round 2, and Sereno is trying to recover. He's got a forearm right on his face. He is not able to get up.
Nice.
Florislava is really putting in work here. He's got 30 seconds left to try to get a finish. Can he get 5 big points?
There you go, nice.
An incredible recovery from Sereno to get back to his feet, to survive that head kick and the follow-up punches on the ground. And I mean, there's still time to get finished in this round, but it's slowly ticking away.
It just takes a second, doesn't it? And 4 seconds left to go. Sereno has recovered pretty well, I must say.
Time, guys.
Yeah, but that round definitively went to Florislava. The first round was, I would say, probably up in the air, but that one's definitely a big win in the Florislava column.
And again, with how tough these two fighters are, you wouldn't be surprised to see this go to a decision again. So that may come into factor once more.
Go to the body and press him back.
You just get the feeling, Lucille, that
Come on, breathe.
this fight could be just hanging on an edge. That there just could be that one, we're just that one strike away from this spelling disaster. It almost happened for Sereno. We'd get that feeling that it just could happen at any given moment.
Yeah, any slight mistake from either man, the opponent is more than skilled and more than heavy-handed enough to make them pay for it in a big way. Sereno's eyes are looking, well, they're not as closed up as I thought they were. I guess he was just blinking a little bit longer than normal. It looked like he had a swollen eye, but it's not as bad, I guess.
Keep moving.
Oh, Sereno is looking to take back control of things with his strikes, but
Florislava is just getting in and out very well. Nice body kick by Sereno. Florislava just has that tenacity and aggression, but Sereno just finds that other gear. It's like, again, he's a high school guidance counselor with a bit of a mysterious past. He just kind of finds that he suddenly just gets into like street fight mentality, which I can only imagine. He starts screaming some, again, they're swear words in Spanish, which again, he's multilingual. Don't really expect to hear that from someone who has such an even-keeled guidance counselor temperament. But again, it just something awakens in Sereno, and that's why we got to see him make it all the way to the finals in 2019. And he's looking to go for the finish now. Some brutal knees to the body of Florislava.
Yeah, big shots from Sereno. Yeah, it is interesting. He was a guidance counselor starting in I believe 2012, and when I asked him what he did before that, he simply walked away and refused to engage any further in that bit of a interview. So
yeah, he just sort of like rubbed. You don't see it because of the gloves, but he's got some tattoos on his hands as well. And he just sort of rubbed the tattoo while he did that. I remember that. I remember seeing that. We kind of looked at each other saying, well, "I don't understand that entirely."
Yeah, I mean, some people, they don't like to bring up their past, and that's well within their rights. I mean, we have, put them onto a riverboat for the foreseeable future, and I think they're allowed to have some secrets.
Yeah, he did seem very eager to just be on the riverboat, and as he said, there's no streets to be wandering when you're on a boat, and he's right about that. I guess keeping himself off the streets as opposed to the kids. And we are down to the last 12 seconds, and these two fighters still have so much energy. Oh, big spinning back kick from Florislava. He's going for everything at this point. Well, we might be going to a decision. It looks like an
Oh my God!
Stop. Fight's over, guys.
Wow.
Florislava. Well, we have to see if that's going to happen. I'm getting word in my ear it did happen. With a second to go, that will be registered as a knockout victory.
Holy cow.
What a strike.
He got his win back. He got revenge.
Just cracks the jaw with a brutal right hook. And Sereno just tired. His hands were down. Fatigue a factor. And there will be a lot of recovery for these two fighters. But Miroslav Florislava continues his winning ways once again in the group stage. Much like we talked about Rob Lynn getting that upset loss, we kind of expected Lynn versus Florislava to be a final. I think Florislava is just as determined to get back to where he was last year and move even further. What a win.
Yeah, impressive from Miroslav Florislava. He is showing that one loss in the semifinals is not necessarily a fluke, but it's not going to be a recurring thing for him. He really put the stamp on that fight.
He definitely has avenged that one loss. These are our results tonight so far. Saw it Florislava with the knockout. Zeke Apnea, a third-round TKO against Cale Howard, and Walter Birch sitting at the top with a big win over Ruben Fondant by submission, and that puts Birch in first with Apnea and Florislava rounding out the top three. Apnea takes on Fondant on June 1st. Our next time the lightweights will do battle. Howard versus Sereno and Birch versus Florislava should be a heck of a fight. Ooh. I am looking forward to that one, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be great. Sereno and Howard, it's going to be interesting to see who gets back on gets on the winning track there.
Yeah, no doubt.
Apnea and Fondant, I mean, Apnea might be 2-0, which I would not have guessed after how he started last year, but,
no doubt,
matchups.
Yeah, something seems to be working for him. Well, on the other side, Switcher with the decision victory over Valentine, Magnum and Lynn both getting wins over Swordhouse and Gibbs, respectively. And look at that, another Hyperfister at the top of the global Megafist standings. Magnum with 5 points, Lynn with 4, Switcher with 3. And Lynn versus Magnum, well, it's trial by fire for both Hyperfist fighters next month. Valentine takes on Swordhouse, and Switcher versus Gibbs, another avenged loss for Switcher this time. But Lynn versus Magnum, that's going to be a hell of a fight, I think.
Oh yeah, that's going to be a really good fight to really test Deputy Snooter Magnum to see where he is. Because Rob Lynn is no joke. He's still dangerous. He's still an outstanding fighter. This is going to be a good contest.
Yeah, well, of course, we meet again next week, May 11th. The heavyweights back in action with their second set of fights. These are the fights to watch for. Marty Sweats versus Oliver Lehman, Lonnie Fescue versus Jeff Perkins, and many more. For Lucille Cramblecorn, I'm Derek Osceola. This has been Global Megafist 12. We're going to continue sailing on through Missouri waters and possibly further along. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you're staying safe. We certainly are doing our best here on the Atsa Paddlin'. And that is going to be it for us. We'll see you next week, Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, here on the Atsa Paddlin' for more Global Megafist 12 action.